Mixbus processing is the one thing that seems to vary significantly between all of our guests here at Nail the Mix. Some mixers like to use a top-down approach, where they engage multiple stages of processing on the Mixbus before they even move a fader, whereas others take a more minimal approach, sometimes using nothing but a limiter. In this clip, Dave shows us what's on his Mixbus and how it impacts the overall mix. Check it out.
Everything is off currently, and we'll kind of go through these one at a time and add them and decide if we want to keep everything that's contained within there, tweak them, do all that kind of stuff. So I have an EQ that I put before my Mixbus compressor, which is pretty key. I used to kind of try it both ways, and I've discovered that like the cleanest, well-balanced source that you can send your Mixbus compressor is just going to make it react to the right parts of the music better. So if I'm going to do any Mixbus EQ, which is usually pretty minimal, like not huge cuts or boosts, I'm going to put it before the compressor, and it almost always allows like that compressor to just hear a cleaner, more balanced mix and react to it better. So let's see what is contained within these. This cool Ivory EQ, which is another like mastering EQ that Acoustica Audio has, Inflator, and I think this is their version of the SSL. It's like the SSL mastering processor, just does a bunch of stuff. It has like some harmonic activation stage. It's got a real basic EQ, some dynamic stuff. All I'm really using here is a drive. But so it's a bunch of like small processes that I use just little bits of, and we'll see if they sound cool here. This is sounding heavy. So this sounds cool. Some stuff that I generally do. So I'm adding some real deep sub. I have it set at 37 hertz now, but it's pretty wide. Adding a bit of mids just because I really like the way the mids sound on this Ivory. And then just a touch of top end around like 9K. I may move this around a little bit. This is pretty subtle. I know I just said usually put EQs before the Mixbus compressor, but this is more of like a finisher. It's not really like the heavy lifting if there is any. So that sounds cool so far. I'm going to leave that on. We'll try a little bit of Inflator. I'm actually not loving this. I usually do, but this mix is pretty distorted, has like a ton of harmonic content already. And I feel like it's just like piling on too much. Maybe it's cool if it's just really subtle like that. Let's see what this guy sounds like. See, you can even see kind of just like some of the annoyances of just the GUI using these plugins outside of Cubase. It is a bit annoying, but you know, it saves me from having to spend $3,000 on a new computer. So it's how it's going to go for now. So really all I'm using is this drive section, and it's in a super minimal fashion. And I know it may be tough to tell on the stream and when you're not here, but some of these changes are really subtle, but on the Mixbus, they all add up, and I kind of like sprinkling in little bits of saturation in different areas, and it just like helps fill in all the holes that can happen in like a standard digital recording and make everything sound nice and big and full and surround you. A lot of the stuff that I have on the Mixbus is pretty subtle, but when you put it all in there together, it makes a big difference. Okay, I'm going to probably skip this one for now, and we're going to go for the last one and start with Ozone and work backwards. Actually, maybe we'll start with the virtual tape in the 2-inch mode, because this can actually make the mix sound pretty different. VTM sounds really cool. It always adds a good amount of low end. So I might typically bring this in a little bit earlier than I did today. So it's something you do sort of need to mix into. But I like what it does overall, and we can just adjust for that. I even have in my settings, I have the bass alignment turned down a bit. And maybe what I'll do for right now is just roll that at -2 instead of 1. So it's not changing the overall shape of the mix quite as much, because we're pretty close with that. I do sometimes wish it had a mix function. I mean, you can hit it like less hard by linking the input and output and adjusting those, but it's not quite the same as like a mix knob would be. But I do like what it does. And it's again, it just adds some like subtle saturation. And if it comes into the picture early enough and you mix into it, it can just help round things over. Okay, now we're going to bring in Ozone, so there might be some substantial level changes, and we'll turn everything off except for the limiter at this point. So I'm not going for like final volume level limiting quite yet, but I do want to see how drums react and how the entire mix reacts when I start putting some limiting on it. So yeah, I mean, we're still going to probably be pretty loud already. So even our final level might not change a ton, but I'm not trying to like maximize volume. I mean, I don't even have everything in the mix at this point. So just trying to get a vibe for where we're at. Little exciter action again, just like stacking small amounts of harmonic excitement. This is a part of Ozone that Joey actually turned me on to like forever ago. Ozone 4 or 5, I think. He told me it was a big part of his mastering chain or Mixbus chain back in the day, and I started playing around with it, specifically the tape algorithm. Sounds really cool. Okay, that's it for now. We'll revisit this stuff later, and let's see what our middle unit here, which is some Soothe. I'm probably not going to use right away. I'm not feeling the need for it, but I do love me some Golfos. Okay, let's set up a loop, and we're going to keep going through some of this Mixbus stuff. So you probably saw me with Golfos, like jack up the recover and tame all the way. It there's not a lot to this plugin. There's the Brighten, which I usually just pull down a bit. I find it suits my tastes. I have it not doing anything with like the crazy top end of the high end spectrum, because I feel like it tries to add too much up there for a rock mix. And then the only other main functions are recover and tame, and they're kind of ambiguous. They both do different things. It's I don't know. You guys probably know what Golfos is. It's supposed to essentially like dynamic EQ your mix for you to make it more pleasing to listen to. And it does a little bit of what Soothe does. It does a little bit of what you're normally trying to achieve with just some Mixbus or mastering EQ, just to like unify everything and make it play back well on multiple sources, but in a smart way. It's a bit of a cheat code. Both of your main controls here react differently to every mix. So sometimes it's helpful just to take one, jack it up all the way so you can really hear what it's doing, and then pull it back and do the same with tame. Yet again, it's another like pretty subtle processor that all adds up to like hopefully a pretty substantial sounding Mixbus collection of plugins.